The reflection of Amelia Thorne, CEO of Thorne Dynamics, fractured across the obsidian floor of the 50th floor atrium, a shimmering testament to her meticulous, high-stakes life. She was a woman who dealt in billions, for whom the word impossible was merely a poorly phrased suggestion. Yet one night, standing alone in the dead quiet of the corporate palace, her gaze snagged on the quiet figure of a man she barely knew existed. Elias Vance, the night janitor, was a ghost in the gleaming hallways, a shadow pushing a heavy cart, his movements precise, but steeped in an exhaustion that felt older than his early 30s suggested. As he meticulously polished the glass conference table, Amelia saw not just his reflection, but a flicker of profound, unbearable weariness in the droop of his shoulders, a silent plea that cut through the sterile air conditioning and momentarily silenced the relentless ticker tape of her own ambition. It was an involuntary, jarring empathy, a crack in the cold, perfect facade of her world that compelled her entirely against her nature. To watch him, not as an employee but as a puzzle piece of human struggle, she felt suddenly urgently driven to understand. His routine was clockwork, a silent ballet of scrubbing and buffing that lasted until 2 a.m., but the true measure of his endurance began the moment he clocked out. One chilly Tuesday evening, driven by an impulse she could not name, Amelia abandoned her chauffeured sedan a block away, pulled a nondescript wool coat tight around her, and watched Elias leave the building. He didn't head for a subway or a well-lit street. Instead, he cycled a rusty, older bicycle down a series of dark, increasingly desolate industrial roads, the chain groaning under the weight of his large backpack. Amelia, following discreetly in her own car, felt her initial curiosity harden into a deep, uncomfortable unease. The stark difference between the polished marble he left behind and the crumbling asphalt he now navigated was a physical manifestation of the inequality she professionally profited from but had never personally considered. This journey was not merely a commute. It felt like a descent into a forgotten world, and with every flickering street lamp they passed, the distance between their lives stretched wider and more painfully apparent. The polished, successful CEO was now a voyeur of desperation, and the guilt she felt was the first genuinely raw emotion she had allowed herself in years. If you believe in the transformative power of kindness, second chances, and the truth hidden beneath the surface, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with a friend, and comment below with your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the Kindness of Americans channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another heart-touching story like this one. Elias finally stopped in front of a small, weather-beaten duplex near the edge of the city's manufacturing district, a neighborhood where the noise of the day lingered like a metallic taste. The light spilling from a single window was weak, but what Amelia saw through the thin, peeling curtains rooted her to the spot. A girl, perhaps 5 or 6, with hair the color of sun-bleached corn silk, was sitting at a small table, working diligently on a coloring book. This was Lily, his daughter. The room was sparse, immaculate despite its threadbare furnishings, and dominated by a medical apparatus, a portable oxygen concentrator, whose quiet, mechanical hum she could faintly hear even through the closed car window. The sight clarified everything. The crushing exhaustion, the refusal of overtime, the silence in his eyes. Elias wasn't just working to live. He was engaged in a desperate, round-the-clock war against an invisible financial foe to protect the fragile health of his child. He was home for mere minutes before his routine began anew. He prepared a simple, nutritious meal for Lily, checked her breathing, and then, after tucking her into bed and ensuring the machine was running smoothly, he quietly slipped out the back door. Amelia's confusion returned as she watched him disappear into a dilapidated detached garage in the backyard. She expected another side job, maybe cleaning another building or driving a late-night shift. But what she heard next was the rhythmic, soft rasp of a handsaw, followed by the gentle tap-tap-tapping of a mallet. She waited for what felt like an eternity, the humid night air thick with the smell of distant diesel and fresh sawdust. Finally, she saw the purpose of his secret, secondary labor. Elias was taking the small, clean scraps of wood and broken furniture he salvaged from the Thorn Dynamics office bins, pieces destined for the landfill, and transforming them into exquisite, handcrafted objects. He wasn't building shelves or massive tables. He was meticulously creating tiny, perfect wooden toys. A miniature articulated giraffe, a sturdy rocking horse the size of a cat, and a set of simple, beautiful stacking blocks. The work was slow, intricate, and demanded a focused patience utterly incompatible with his crippling fatigue. He was an artist forced to work at the pace of necessity, creating beauty and joy from corporate refuse, fueled only by love, and the desperate need to generate a few extra dollars to cover the costs of Lilly XS oxygen tubing and specialized medications. He was recycling not for the environment, but for the life of his child, turning scrap into hope. The next hour was the most profound Amelia had ever spent. She watched Elias finish a small, rolling wooden train, gently sand its edges until they were velvet smooth, and then place it carefully in a box marked "Sold." She realized the janitor who silently cleaned up the waste of her enterprise was, in fact, creating something of tangible, enduring value while she chased abstract digital gains. The money he made from these small sales, barely enough for a week of medication, represented an investment of skill, dignity, and profound love that her entire company couldn't buy. It was a secret labor of extraordinary dignity, a testament to a man who refused charity and leveraged his last ounce of strength and ingenuity to provide. As he finally packed up his tools, Amelia felt an overwhelming surge of respect and shame. She had judged his silence as lack of ambition, but it was merely the exhaustion of a man fighting two full-time battles, one against poverty and one against illness. Amelia drove away that morning, the sun just beginning to fracture the horizon, and her view of the world had irrevocably shifted. The following day at the office, the marble floors felt too cold, the silence of the executive suite too loud, and the distance between her polished desk and Elias's cleaning cart seemed an immoral chasm. She spent the entire day not in board meetings or merger talks, but in conference calls with her legal and HR teams, structuring an intervention that would not feel like charity, but an investment. She refused to simply write a check. She wanted to empower his dignity and leverage his remarkable skill. That evening, when Elias clocked in, Amelia was waiting. She didn't use her CEO voice or her negotiation tactics. She spoke softly, directly, placing a small wooden giraffe, one she had surreptitiously purchased online from his meager Etsy store, on his cleaning cart. Elias froze, his face registering a confusion that quickly dissolved into profound vulnerability. Amelia explained everything: the follow, the observation, and the overwhelming respect she now held for his character and his work. She didn't fire him for his side hustle. She offered him a promotion that redefined his entire role. Elias Vance was immediately moved to the newly created position of Director of Corporate Resourcefulness and Artistry. His job was simple: manage all salvaged materials, design and build bespoke, corporate gifts for Thorn Dynamics high-value clients, and establish a new internal woodworking apprenticeship program for marginalized youth, using his small garage setup as the initial blueprint. His salary was set to a level that instantly dissolved his medical anxieties, providing fully funded, comprehensive care for Lily. Most importantly, his schedule was reorganized to ensure he was home by 5 p.m. every night, allowing him to be a full-time father and a respected professional simultaneously. The contrast was immediate and cinematic. A week later, Elias stood in the 50th floor atrium wearing a crisp, tailored suit, discussing design concepts with architects, his eyes now lit not by exhaustion, but by the clean, bright flame of acknowledged purpose. Lily, stable and thriving, would sometimes visit the office, her laughter echoing near the atrium, a joyful sound that finally made the vast corporate space feel less like a palace of commerce and more like a home for human possibility. Amelia Thorne finally understood that true wealth wasn't measured in revenue, but in the stability and dignity she could facilitate in the lives of the people who quietly made her world function. The CEO's secret pursuit of her janitor had not only changed his life, but had dismantled and rebuilt her own, replacing the emptiness of unrelenting ambition with the profound, heart-touching fulfillment of purpose. If Elias's story, his struggle, his dignity, and his well-deserved second chance truly touched your heart and made you believe that every person deserves to be seen and valued, please let us know. Engage with this video now. Leave a comment telling us what you would do if you were in Amelia's position. Give us a thumbs up and share this message of hope with someone who needs it. Remember to comment below. What quality in Elias do you admire the most?